need it all. Do you want it though?
Hello, everybody.
I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard he scammer, had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call it my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. Been through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, it's not a purse, it's a merge. 6 figures was a gold, now it's 9, no I heard, put it work. Used to pull up, now swerve, no time for the snakes, trying to put them in the dirt, that's word. I gotta get it, it's in my DNA. You only see the highlights, don't know what it takes. Last year stressing, got no sleep. Now I'm right between the courts, I don't know bleed. I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard he scammer, had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call it my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. And through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, same circle, still the same gang. We just get to it, we don't gangbang. Lost some friends, said the same thing. Keep a low pro when we maintain. Find us in the loss somewhere, kicking back. Find you
a budget.
Hey guys, welcome to the 5 F's to Love, Real Talk. This is going to be an amazing show with the Finance Squad. So let me bring the guys in. Let me bring in Mordecai. Hey, Mordecai.
What's
Santana.
going on?
Hello.
OMG, is that Forrest?
Hey, good evening. How y'all doing?
Okay, listen, I just want to say I'm not talking today. I'm going behind the scenes and produce because I got to get my notebook out because I know Sean's been talking about that freaking finance notebook, everybody. I got my notebook out, so I'm out. I want you guys to have a great show. And folks, if you're like me, get that finance notebook out. These guys are going to be bringing you to business today, getting that budget together. I'm trying to get my money right. I'll see you guys at the end of the show. Hey, guys, enjoy the podcast. This is a great podcast, and make sure you take notes and rewatch us.
Yes.
Hey, fam, we want to thank you for being a part of this discussion, and we want to bring you into the Finance Squad family. Again, my name is Mordecai Holland. I'm a part of the Finance Squad. We're all here, and we want to welcome you again to this conversation, Get Your Money Right with the Finance Squad. Now, these discussions and podcasts are designed, family, to take you on a journey. We're all on this journey together. Take you on a journey to help you build the financial security you desire and help you make better financial choices, right? And so we talked about that. Our goal is to educate, to inspire, to motivate, to give you some practical application. No pie in the sky, you know what I'm saying? Stuff that doesn't work. No, I'm talking about where the rubber meets the road and to impart knowledge. A lot of the things are locked up. You have to pay to get the information. Right. And so we want to end each week with a challenge. So we will have a challenge at the end of this discussion and podcast.
So Mordecai,
yeah,
when we talk about budgets today, am I to understand that whether I make $50,000 or $250,000 a year, I'm going to have something relevant to me in today's podcast?
Absolutely. Okay. We are not talking pie in the sky. We're going to listen. The breakdown is going to happen in this discussion. Right. And so, one of the things that we talked about, and we want to be very clear, is how do you actually put together a secure financial house? We shared that with you, right? Your financial house. Now, when we talk about your budget, the budget is the base. It is the assessment, right? And there are various parts of the budget that we're going to break out, and we're going to have a comprehensive discussion, right? And so if you want to build your financial house, you got to have some income protection. We got to talk about debt resolution. We have to deal with saving for retirement because we said tomorrow will come. And if you have children or if you want to go back to school, what about saving for education? We have to talk about investing and then saving for your big goals and dreams. That is your financial house. Right? The budget is what helps you move into surplus. So when you look at your financial house, maybe you are not where you want to be, or like most of us, we're still on this journey. And so the budget is where we help move you from surviving to surplus, right? And so again, here's what we want you to do. We want you to write down the word that best describes how you feel about where you are inside of your financial health. We talk a lot about mental health. Let's talk about.
So how do you feel, Forrest and Mordecai,
Oh,
about where you're at right now financially? We're talking about just how do you feel today? I mean, it's a beautiful day. I'm down in Florida. How do you feel today? How do you feel?
well, you know where I'm talking to you all from right now. And as I celebrated the 50, you understand, I celebrated the big 5-0.
The big
Yes.
5-0.
Big 5-0. Y'all know, Santana, we've been together for us. So I'm talking to you out of the country right now. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
You know, 15, 20 years ago, I would have never even dreamed that I could actually even be doing anything remotely of what I'm doing now. And so I would say right now, I'm entering a place from secure to surplus. And I feel real good about it. I mean, I've seen the benefit just across my entire family. So that's where I'm at. What about you?
I'm here in Michigan, man, and I'm enjoying Michigan. I love it.
There ain't no way you're enjoying Michigan. It's too cold.
I'm gonna keep. Hey, today it's gonna be up in the 40s. So for Michigan, that's a heat wave. I take it. Hey, man, listen. The one word that comes to mind when I think about how I felt about my finances when I got started was fear. I was afraid. Mm-hmm. I was afraid that putting the budget together was going to prevent me from having, here's another F word for you, fun. Yeah. The fear of the budget is going to prevent me from having fun. All my money is going to be spent doing other things, when the exact opposite is what actually happened. Where am I at today?
Yeah.
I'm in the surplus stage, moving into the successful stage.
So that means I could come and we can talk about surplus, because I got some things I want to build. You understand?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So
let's do it.
We got some surplus folks up on here.
Yes.
That's me right there.
Yeah. The money grab.
That's it.
Money
I
grab.
bet we all strive for that
trying
position.
to tell you. You feel me?
Yes.
So write down how you feel, family. Are you surviving, struggling? Do you feel stable, secure, and again, surplus? So when we look at what's displayed in each glass, you can notice at some point there's a starting point.
Correct.
Santana, you guys, I mean, we all had a starting point where it wasn't a whole lot in the glass. Let's just be honest. Wasn't a whole lot in that first glass. But guess what? With the principles that we're going to share and the strategies that we're going to kind of throw out there so you all can grab a lot of different things, it will help move people from that surviving into that surplus.
I got to tell you, Mordecai, when I first started, that first glass we showed, that had the least amount of coins in it, and my first glass, the glass was actually empty. What was in it was hope. And the hope was that if I followed, if I was diligent, if I was committed, and if I stuck to this plan, that ultimately my wife and I's glass would look like number 5. But that first glass, it was empty, save for it had some hope in it.
Wow. But typically, I mean, we all have been there. You get your first job out of school. Mm-hmm. You may have student loans or whatever. Everybody, unless you're born with the silver spoon, then everybody is that first jar or less.
Correct.
So, the joy of life when you look back over it is to see that your jar has kept changing.
That's right.
Through discipline, what was in the jar got greater. And so that's what we kind of want to start with the listeners today, understanding how to go from jar on the left to the jar on the right.
Let's do it.
So in the midst of all that, we do know grace has to happen. So to all of us, because we're going to have our challenges, you have financial hiccups, and you learn from them and get better, but it doesn't stop you or impede you from getting to the right side of the jars.
Yeah. So this discussion on the budget breakdown is important because the budget is the base. And so when we look at the average American holds a debt balance of $96,000 roughly, which is up 3% over 2021. And so we need to really just pause and take a deep breath with that, right?
I got a question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mordecai.
No. That's why
96,000 in debt.
grand. What's
Okay.
the average income though?
So the median household income is somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 nationwide.
Okay.
How does one accumulate $96,000 in debt on a $45,000 to $50,000 annual income? How does that happen?
Well, you know the car dealerships. First we could look at cars. I mean, credit cards in college. I mean, like, hey, this, you hear all the horror stories of college students coming out with credit card debt, and so a lot of this stuff is just the accessibility of it.
Yeah.
If I had $96,000 in debt on a $50,000 a year income, there's the fear that I'm talking about. And that fear is I'm never going to climb out of this. How do I position myself where I can get out of that hole?
You know what I would say? I would say you listen out to the rest of this this podcast today and see if the finance squad can help you get out of it. I think.
What if you like me? What if you like me? I'm in college with Santana. I'm running behind Santana, and I got no job. I'm in school, and I got a credit card. And we go down to the department store. We buying Timberlands. We buying Hilfiger. You get what I'm saying? Nobody told me about interest, about paying that stuff back on time, and all those kinds of things. And guess what happened? By the time I graduated, I had the student loans, but I also had a bad credit score.
Got it.
And so there are all kinds of ways that you end up with that 96,000 that debt. You know what I'm saying? That's continuing to increase. And so today we have the breakdown, right? Today we have the breakdown. And so one of the things we had talked about was looking at a budget with this model. This is a model. This is not the end all be all. This is not the only example, but this, for our discussion, we're going to use the 10-20-70 model. Forrest, just real quick, we talked about it last week before Santana jumped in. Give us right before the commercial break, what's the 10-20-70? And then we're going to head right to our first commercial.
10 is going to be given to whomever you feel like you want to give to. 20 is going to be saving. And 70 is going to be my lifestyle. I'm living on 70% of my income. When we come back from commercial break, Santana is going to break down what that actually looks like.
Be right back.
Look, we'll be right back.
My name is Christine Burkett, the inventor of the 5 F's to Love. This is a compatibility app. It's an app that gives you an opportunity to rate words that start with the letter F in chronological order of importance to you, to help you find your one true love, your soulmate, and the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So after you've taken the time to rate your F's in chronological order, you send a link to the person, you just met, or the person you've been dating for quite some time. Or maybe it's the person you've been married to for 30 to 40 to 50 years. And then you compare your top 5 F's to find out what things you have in common and things that you may perhaps need to work on. This is taking a simplistic perspective on how to find your one true love, your soulmate, the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And thank you for downloading the 5 F's app.
Well, this is the time we get into the actual numbers.
Right.
Being a CPA, I'm always the bad guy. The person that wants to talk about financial constraints, whether you're in an advisory position, a CFO position, or whatever position, even in your own house. If you're talking about a budget, you're the bad guy. Like, nobody want to ever hear limitations. So today I have the very exciting but arduous task of going through a budget. So what we decided to do is talk about a budget of $50,000. We're saying we're going to do an illustration on a person that's a single with an income of $50,000. So that's probably somebody that's just recently graduated from college. You've gotten that first job and you're excited. You're looking at your situation. And so what we're going to do is implement the 70-20-10 for that person. So what we're saying is that person has $35,000 to go towards paying bills, taxes, etc. So let me let me walk you through. So that person would get a salary of $50,000, and then right off the top, that famous 2 words, Uncle Sam is going to take 10%. Uncle Sam is going to take 10%. So that's $5,000. So you're now down to $45,000. Now, you have $35,000. So you back out the 5, so you're down to $30,000. So what is the biggest thing we deal with now? We got to find a place to stay. You know, whether this young man or woman would be heading to a big city or smaller city, you gotta get a place to stay. So I did a number of rent is now up. I mean, we all know, we've all seen the horror stories, how landlords have just jacked rent up at post-COVID. There's a limitation of places to stay. So I used a number approximately of $1,600 a month for rent. That is like $19,200. That doesn't leave you much. I mean, man, Forrest and Mordecai, what do you do, man? I mean,
talking about 20,
yeah, I mean, I'm down now from 35,000. Now I'm down to like, let me do this. So 35, you have your 35,000.
Santana, why you sitting there doing that? I'm
taking out your 5,000 and take out your 19,200, and you're at $10,800. I'm like, wow, man, like, what am I gonna do? I gotta eat. So if I want to get some food, I take out, say, maybe about $3,600 a year. I'm down to $7,200, and then I take out gas in my car, and then I take out utilities. I'm down to not much of anything.
All right, Santana, wait a minute, bro. Wait a minute. I gotta ask a question because, I mean, you're telling me that you've allocated $19,000 for just rent. That does not leave me a whole lot to live off of. You understand? And Forrest and I talk a lot about that. Once, I mean, 19,000 out of that 70, that 35,000, man. Like, how do you navigate around that? Like, so do I get a roommate? I mean, what?
Hey! I'm not gonna tell my personal business, but let me say I've known in the past that years ago people were not against getting roommates coming right out of college, and your first apartment, why not have a roommate? I mean, it's good to share expenses. I mean, that's one way to attack this. But we have that next session for budget busters, and so these are some of the things we'll talk about. But for the sake of this discussion, hey, either I'm going to have to get a lower apartment but if I'm just out of college, and so I don't want to be in any place, and I don't want my parents to be concerned about my safety. So I'm probably going to move in a better area. So I'm going to pay $1,600. I don't know about you, but I'm going to pay my $1,600. What do you say, Forrest? What are you going to do?
So I'm clear, my man. These numbers, these percentages that you use, these percentages come from an average of what's spent on housing across America.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. So the single individual generating $50,000 in income.
Mm-hmm.
To stay within their budget, because it sounds like once you start doing all these deductions, my man, you are operating with very little left, or you're operating at a deficit at the end of the year.
Yes.
So what this individual sounds like is going to have to really have some hard conversations with themselves about how they're living and where they choose to live. It sounds like they need to be in a place where rent's more affordable.
Yes.
Well, let me ask this question, because we're talking about single. But I know families who have multiple children who the household income is $50,000. And so there's a wise saying that says, "Don't make me so poor, I'll steal. Don't make me so rich, I'll forget you." I gotta eat. Like you're not going to tell a mother and a father to not put food on that table. And so this makes me think about what we value and what's important. And I mean, like, where do I live versus how much do we want to eat? Like, these are real choices that we're asking people to make.
And a lot of 2-parent homes, they make the decision that someone stays home because we haven't talked about healthcare. we haven't talked about if you're dropping that kid off to daycare or healthcare that's I go to talk about a married couple, and from my research, I think it's a safe estimation that childcare is about $700 a month. So we're gonna
break all that down.
I
think this is some great dialogue, you guys. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Santana. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to inject here. This dialogue is awesome because I think what this is showing us, and it's showing us relatively quickly, when you're dealing with a budget, when I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, when I'm ready to deal with where the rubber meets the road, there's going to be some serious and courageous conversations. You may find yourself in a situation where you have to make some tough decisions.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to living in an area that I would prefer not live in, but it affords me to put food on the table, then you got to deal with that reality.
Let me tell you, from a planning perspective or budgetary, the number, and we talked about it in previous sessions, that your rent or your mortgage should be like 28% of your gross income.
Yeah.
So if you go just purely by the numbers, that would put this person at $14,000. Now, $14,000 for the year divided by 12 is about $1,167 is what the numbers say they should be at. But due to the escalation in rent costs after COVID, the landlord or the business owner that has a rental property, they are not concerned about what the number suggests. So it puts the single person in a very vulnerable position financially. But let's just hop over to someone that's making $100,000. So that person has a bigger pot to try to take care of their family.
So before we get into 100,000,
okay,
are we to assume that the percentages are the same for
they're the same,
housing? Okay, so all these percentages are relatively the same straight across the board.
Across the board.
So, all right, awesome.
So once again, you're making 100,000. So we're saying two single people got together and had a kid. So we're going to take those two single people making 50,000 a year, give them an income total household income of $100,000, and now their tax bracket has gone slightly up. They move now from the 10% to 12%. So you have 100,000. The taxes are taken out. Now, one of the things that I made the assumption, we're talking about two single people getting married that's in Florida, because if you're not in Florida, if you're in Michigan, then you have state taxes to also account for. But since we're in Florida, we're in sunny Florida, the place that people love to retire because there's no state taxes, we're going to say you're going to get to have that extra amount of money in your pocket because you don't have to pay state taxes. So you have 70, we're doing with the 70, 20, 10 again. So first thing we take out of the $70,000 is we're going to take out $12,000 for your taxes. So that puts us at $58,000. Now, of course, that's looking a lot better than the last scenario. So then we're going to assume that they can find a 2-bedroom for $2,000 a month. What do you all think about that? Do you think $2,000 is reasonable? Can we get Mordecai, Forrest? Can we get in a nice 2-bedroom?
In my location, $2,000 a month will rent you or purchase you a decent place to live. Would you consider it ideal? Probably not the individual that's bringing in $100,000, because that individual is, I'm going to say more times than not, focused on the Joneses. So they're looking at where the Joneses live.
So if we marry, what you're saying, and you're getting almost to the next segment about budget busters, and you're saying, yeah, you just took 250s and put it together, make 100, but now you may be looking at what your boss is doing on the job or somebody that's the executive. Yeah. You kind of peeking over into their household, how they're living.
Yeah.
Even though all you did is take 250s and making 100, you may want to compete with the person that's making 250.
What we find is that just because you make more money, the mentality doesn't change.
Correct.
The same desires that you had when you were making 20,000, you're going to have the same desires when you're making 100,000. And so that's the reason why, we have folks that we coach. It's about who are you trying to impress? And more importantly, what is your end game? If your end game is to be broke, right, then you're on that road. Like just stay on that road and you're gonna like absolutely hit that mark. But what is the end game? How do I maximize this 100,000 becomes the question. And so like in Michigan where we are, I would say you could find a place to stay for 2,000. It will not be the most optimal place where you got all the yard and all the kinds of things, but that's not what I tell people, it's not your final resting place. Correct. You're in transition to something greater.
Mordecai, I want you to, for a moment, to put a pin there, because I want, before we get through this second segment, to make sure we walk through this $100,000 scenario. So we had 100,000. We've paid Uncle Sam 12. Then we paid 24,000. So then we got to talk about utilities. I'm in Florida, so I want to have some air conditioning. I got to make sure air conditioning, cell phone. So I have an estimate of like $500 a month, which gives us $6,000. So we're now down to $28,000. Now, one of the things, and I had this conversation with Forrest, is that a lot of employers are switching to a high deductible health insurance plan. So at the end of the day, what that means is I'm coming out of pocket as a household with more of my money towards making sure we have a health insurance. So the employee portion with 2 people and maybe a child, we're going to say it's like $13,000 for the year. So I'm down to $15,000, and I have to take care of my car and my car insurance. So once again, it becomes challenging. Yeah. So one of the things I looked at is, hey man, if you have 2 cars, that's going to wipe you out. And then we got child care to look at. So in order to just break even with this particular scenario, we need to look at just having 1 car, and then child care, we're pretty much breaking even for the year. And so you begin to see that it is hard to really achieve the American dream. The American dream, I would believe, is to be financially free and be able to save, to go on vacations and do some of these things we want to do now. So one of the 2 things have to happen with the 2 scenarios that we're looking at. One, you got to do some cutting back. Then nobody ever wants to do that. Or you got to you got to hold yourself accountable and say, are you maximizing the income that's coming in your household? That has to be a real conversation. If you can't
ask the question, how much are you saving at $100,000?
You're saving nothing.
Wow.
Let's jump into, see if that changes when we jump into a budget, the same married couple with 2 kids, but now we're talking about $250,000 in household income.
Well, first of all, I don't want to leave the people without hope for us. I mean, we hop over to 250, and you have me feeling today like on this wonderful Saturday, like I can't get out this situation. I want to leave people with hope that most Americans have started off with their situation looking like this.
Correct.
I mean, the clients you look at, everybody has had a moment where their finances look like this. This is the start and not the end. Now, I will say this: we ran the numbers with 250, and with a house, with staying in the house of saying 33,000 a month. We're assuming that if you're making 250, we're saying that you get a modest home, 3,000. It's only 36,000. That's only 14.4% of your total household income. Now, when you get to making 250, you're able to do the 20%. You're able to now do the 10% for charitable giving, doing the 20% for retirement. Now we are including in there your contributions to your 401k. And then you do have money left over at the end of the year to do the things for your family, like go on vacation.
So hold on, we got to hit a commercial break right quick, but I got a question, because what I hear you saying, and I want to make sure that we're clear on this, because we have a lot of questions that are in the chat about saving. Like we talked about the 10, 20, 70, and you're saying at 250, now I'm able to do more. I've got more resources. So let's hit this commercial break. Then we're going to come back with this $250,000 budget breakdown and continue this conversation.
Get it that I'm never going back. Get it that I'm never going back. I get to it first, I got you mad. I guess that when I get to it last. Get it that I'm never going back. Get it that I'm never going back. Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, going up. Get it that I'm never going.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So I'm Forrest Bouyer here, part of this magnificent finance squad. I want to be clear about something before we move forward. I want to stress the fact that the numbers we're using are examples and examples only. Your numbers will probably be different. You need to pick the numbers that fit your circumstance and your situations. People, budgets are like fingerprint. Everybody has them, and no two are the same. How I do me, how Mordecai does him, and how Santana does himself, those are vastly different, or potentially vastly different. Your numbers have to fit your situation. You pick them, you write them down. We spoke about in a previous podcast, writing your goals down. Whatever those dreams are, when you put them to paper, those become goals. The importance behind writing down your goals is, listen, real quick, I want to share something with you guys. I coached AAU basketball for a period of time when my youngest son played. There was a young man who came to me and said, Coach, there's some things that I want to do, specifically 3 of them. And I said, well, what is that? He said, personally, I want to grow my relationship with Christ. Second, I want to grades in school. And third, I want to play college basketball. Now, this kid was in high school. I want to play college basketball. So I told him, I said, son, what I've always done, what's worked for me is when I set goals, I would write them down and I would put them in places where I was seeing these goals on a regular basis. I always want to keep them in front of me. I've seen these goals on a regular basis. This young man shared with me that what he did is he went home and he wrote down those 3 goals. In no particular order, he just wrote down those goals. He slept on his stomach, so he taped a diagram of those goals on his headboard. So when he went to bed at night and woke up in the morning, he saw those goals. He taped those goals by the light switch as he entered in and out of his room. And he taped those goals on the backside of his closet because there was a huge mirror that he got dressed in front of in the morning. My point is those goals were always in front of him at a place where he could see them consciously or unconsciously. Now, let me share this with you about that young man. He graduated from high school, a National Honor student. He did play college basketball. And according to him, his relationship with Christ is much stronger. He had some desires. He wrote them down. He put them in places where he could always see them. And that became his reality. That's what we want to share with you guys about this budget. Be real with yourself about what you want to do. Write those things down and put them in places where you will see them on a regular basis, where they become a part of who you are. And that will become your reality. Santana, I want to turn it back over to you, my man, so we can talk a little bit more about this $50,000, $100,000, and $250,000 budget.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was thinking about is, okay, we're going to get into budget busters, but I wanted to talk about this single person. I think how you start can make your life a lot easier. Meaning, if I'm a single person and I'm just out of college, you got, just to address that situation, you got one or two options easily. You can get a roommate. Yeah. That frees up $800 a month right there. That's
that cuts your expenses in half. That cuts it in half.
That's a game changer.
That's a game changer. Absolutely.
Secondly, this is the real game changer. If you're blessed enough to go back to the city where your parents stay.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
go home.
I mean, I know we were talking about it before.
You go home.
If you go home,
glasses off. I gotta
go home. Just think about it. If you got 70%, of
go home
of 50,000, you take your taxes out. That leaves you with $30,000. Just say you want to do charitable giving of another 10%. That leaves you with $25,000. And don't have the nice parents like maybe some people on this podcast where they buy you a car or something. I mean, wow! Just think about how differently this whole scenario is. You have 50,000, 5,000 taxes, brings you down to 30, and then you do charitable beginning another 5. You have like $25,000.
So Santana, if I'm hearing you correctly, what it sounds like I'm hearing you say, my man, is if you can put away all the outside noise, if you can forget about what the Joneses are doing, or stop spending so much energy thinking about what other folks might be thinking or saying about you. I make $50,000. The reality is I'm going to live substandard, or I have this courageous conversation with myself, and maybe I go back home if I'm fresh out of college. I got a 23-year-old, a 24-year-old, graduated a few years ago, fresh out of school, around that entry-level pay raise for a professional position. He's home. Why? Because he can do the things that he needs to do to position himself to set a foundation to where when he actually leaves, this isn't a revolving door where he finds himself constantly coming back. He had some courageous conversations with himself about that, because that's not ideal. I got my money. I want to do my thing. Actually coming home, he realized, is going to allow him long term to do his thing.
Just hypothetically speaking, if you do that for 2 years,
yes,
and you happen to find the woman of your dreams,
I'm ready.
And you have 50,000. Let's say 40, because let's say you go out and do a little shopping, go back and see your friends from college or whatever, and you're still on 35. You have 35 to 40,000 to now, as a husband or as a soon-to-be wife, you take that money and then take it, and lo and behold, if the person you're marrying has saved their money, look how differently, and we're just speaking hypothetically, look how differently this situation. So the two of you coming together as one, maybe potentially 2 to 3 years out of school, have $100,000 in your pocket with no debt. And you can go get that ring you want. You can have a down payment with a first-time home buyers program to put down 10% on your first home. You don't have to depend on your father to pay for the wedding. Like you can help out even with the wedding. So there are things that I'm telling that person that's single, that's coming out of mainly coming out of school, and it may be not too late to have to go back home if you find yourself in a financial situation.
Well, I think that's just wise, wise decisions, right? Because you can accomplish your dreams. You know, I mean, think about you go back home, and if you do have generous parents and they don't charge you utilities, you go back home and you're able to stay there for 2 years, like you said. You got a nest egg to actually invest into. What we've seen is students will graduate, go back home, and use the money they save to seed into a business.
Yeah.
So that money is not just lost or just saved; it is actually seeded, right? So now they're actually planting seeds for something greater later, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
so I think this is a discussion culturally that, you know, it's taboo to graduate and go back home.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But we also have to recognize now this is the other part, is that sometimes some of our family graduate and there's nothing to go back to.
That is true. That is true.
Right. So that's why this discussion is important, because I need a model or an example to help me make better choices. So
Mordecai, you bring up an interesting point. You said culturally to go back home is taboo. I also think we need to start reevaluating some of these cultural things, because why is that taboo to go back home? When you look at other cultures, that's what they do.
Yep.
So why do we not pick up on some of that? Why is that considered taboo?
One of the things I want to say to the audience is, as we look across the span of 50, 100, 250, I had a mentor tell me, never tell me how much you make, tell me how much you save. And so it has to be, at the end of the day, retirement savings has to be paramount, because, you know, we've heard the discussions about, you know, will you have Social Security? The companies don't have pension plans anymore. So the best emergency fund is your own emergency fund.
That's right.
It shouldn't have an interest rate attached to it, unless. So why not have the ability to take care of your own problems where the money is expensive if you have a problem? So I'm saying all that to say we have to make savings important. So if you look at your budget and you happen to be single, then you need to start making the necessary adjustments where you're not living paycheck to paycheck.
Correct.
So
savings has to be non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
That's
because
what I need. That's what I
yeah,
need.
it's a non-negotiable. So we're talking about the span of 50,000 to 100, but we've tried to provide a concept to consider when you're at 50, that when you get to 100, you're in a much better place.
Correct.
Because the illustration I looked at, each person had a car. Well, if you're staying at home and each person don't have that car payment, or you paid off the car while you were single, and you get to the marriage point and you don't have a car payment, game changer.
That's right.
So it's all these different things you have to consider. Now, the person with 250, you're able to have your own savings and retirement. You're able to afford child care. You're paying the health insurance. But I had them with 2 cars, even with that particular situation.
So
If
let me
I'm
ask this question.
Yes.
Let me ask this question, because this is bringing up a lot of things that I hear. So you have a couple that's making 100,000, and they're having marital issues, right? So they come talk. The husband feels like, I'm working, but I got nothing to show for it, right? Which means that if there's an emergency, an accident, or something happening, I have no means. So it affects the way he feels about being a provider, right? And so I really like this whole point about savings being non-negotiable. And so, you know, there's this one story where there was this major, thing that happened in the family, and he thought that the wife was not saving anything, and she walked in and handed him $3,000. And he said, "Where you get this from?" And she said, I've been saving this from every one of your paychecks. I've been saving this as a part of our emergency fund. He had no idea. And it changed the whole flavor of the relationship. Can we just talk a little bit about
how much time? I mean, we're almost about to go to a segment break, but I think I want to say something that this is culturally known, accepted, but we never understood how. So, Forrest, Mordecai, tell me, did you have the grandmother that could pull money out of nowhere? Did you all have the grandmother that
So,
could pull
so,
money
so,
out?
so,
Yeah.
you said pull money out of nowhere. Yeah, the coffee can, the sock was tucked in the shoe.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
My grandmother had a Gerber baby jar. She had each one of our names on it, and she said, "Baby, put your little pennies in the jar."
Yes.
So when we wanted to go to the corner store, we went to her bedroom, and she'd open up our jar and said, "Well, you ain't got but 50 cents in your jar, right?" And so, but she was, I don't know where she would pull it from, but she pulled money from here everywhere.
The first time I ever heard the term emergency in relationship to money or an emergency fund, my great grandmother had a little silk makeup bag, and inside that makeup bag was a little short stocking, like pantyhose. Shoved into the toe of the pantyhose was some money. And whenever mother had an emergency, whenever Mother Dear had an emergency, that's where she went to.
Yes.
So
that's where she went to.
It's a fallacy to say that we don't know how to do this. That's not true. That's what's been told our people. That stigma been thrown out there, but that is just totally not true. We know how to do this, and we don't have time to talk about what history records, but we know how to do this, right? And so, this is about winning. And so, Santana, when we talk about winning, what do you think about?
In the area of finance, winning to me is taking control over your life. It's not happening to you, but you're happening to life. And you get that comfort when you wake up with knowing that, hey, I got 6 months of cash reserve, regardless. As a man, let's have a conversation as men. It puts you in a very vulnerable position when you're living day to day to know that if something pops off, you don't know how you're going to handle it.
Man, you hear
That's right.
You're scared. Right. You're scared with certain parts of the day if your wife or child call you, and you don't know you have the money. That is a very horrible and impotent feeling as a man. And so, from a male perspective, having money set aside that as the provider of your home, even if you have, you're fortunate enough to have a good credit card, not that we're prescribing, but to have something in place to deal with an emergency. I always love.
That's a good word, Santana. That's a real good word, my man. Listen, to sum that up, it sounds like what you're saying is, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Yes.
I determine that. If it is to be, it's up to me. I determine that. And sometimes that might mean I settle for a little less than what it is that I wanted. Yeah. But the less, my mother used to say to me, sometimes you got to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. And I never really understood that concept until I started running a household. That is true. At 50,000 or 100,000, I might need to start out here for housing to work my way here for housing. I cannot afford to do it if I come out of the gate here.
Right.
I'm digging myself a hole that I will probably never get out of. You can't save yourself out of poverty. You have to change the way you think to get out of poverty.
That's good. I was thinking here, we're having this conversation that we're never told the power of one good decision.
That's right.
One good decision totally outweighs a string of bad. You can make one good decision every single day that can quantum leap you, right? And so, as our audience is listening, what's that one decision, right? As we talk about facing your fears. So for me, right, and different ones, it was, okay, the fear is I got to do the budget. The budget is the assessment. It's going to tell the truth about what's going on. We don't have to be emotional about it. It's going to tell the truth. But watch this. It doesn't stop there. This is where now I and everybody else can reach out for coaching, advisement, someone to help you make, watch that next right decision. And so,
hey, you guys,
yeah,
we got to go to a commercial break. When we come back, though, we're going to start breaking down some of the things that impact your budget negatively to keep you from getting on the right side of your money.
Absolutely. Grab your financial planners and let's get back to getting your money right here with the Finance Squad. We'll be right back.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Loving how you wind up for me. Tonight is all on me. Mash up the place for me. Yeah, yeah. She just wanna highlight. Ooh, that body talk to me. I need a taste, baby. Loving the way you move around me. No more delay. No, you can wait to shut it down. Want to show me how you work it. I can't find no flaws, you perfect. Cause every time that you come around my way, I keep falling again. I keep falling again. And every time that you come across my mind, I keep falling again. I keep falling again.
Well, we are back and we are here for our final segment around the budget. And again, Mordecai here with the Finance Squad. Get your money right. And so we're grateful. We got to talk, fellas, man, about budget busters. We have to talk about budget busters. And so, Forrest, when we talk about budget busters.
So hold on, man. Before I get into the budget busters, I want Santana to circle back around and talk about, in a previous show, we listed 9 key components and how you line those up on your budget. And Santana kind of addressed some of those in the first part of segment 1 when he put numbers to them. I kind of want him to go back and touch on those 9 items again before we get into budget busters, because understanding these items will shed some light on some of these budget busters, because these items can also be budget busters.
Yeah, so what I want to do is to kind of relate the 9 key components to the 70-20-10 that we just discussed in one of our previous segments. The first thing is normally your biggest budget component of that is housing or rent. So housing, what we want to do is to make sure for the listening audience, we want of your 100% of your money, we want to recommend but state probably 28% at max. Would you want that to go to your gross income? Giving, and we're not saying that it has to be church, or we probably, everybody on this podcast, we probably do the 2 to 10%. So 10% to our churches or whatever religious organization. So we do the 10%. Then you look at the consumer debt and taxes. Well, taxes are one of those things that are taken off the top. If you're not a business owner, when you get your check, if you're a W-2 wage earner, I can assure you that it's already taken out of your check. So insurance premiums, healthcare insurance is another one of those items that's taken out of your check. So when you look at housing, taxes, and insurance, those are things that everybody is probably faced with. Giving is one of those things that you do at your discretion. Consumer debt, we're dealing more with credit cards. You know, if you're a shopper and every time you go to the store and they say you can have 10% off if you purchase this, you can have 10% off for a credit card. Well, you know, that's probably how you got some of the consumer debt. Leisure.
So,
go ahead.
So I got a question, Santana. When I'm setting up my budget, do I have to have all these 9 things? Can I combine some of them? Or what if I don't have one of these things?
I think some of those things is what you strive for. So you got things that you're going to have, and you got things that you're going to strive for. We all are going to strive for leisure. We're going to strive, mostly everyone is going to strive for nice transportation. And then there are things, you know, with family, I'm going to put things that you want to do with your family, going out, you know, having nights on Friday night where you take the family out. Even if you're single, you want to be able to go on dates and have that. Well, that could be a part of leisure, but you're striving to have money to spend on family, to have money on the nice transportation you want, and you're striving to have leisure. Now, we're going to make savings just as important as insurance premiums, taxes, and all that, because you're paying yourself. At the end of the day, you're paying yourself. And in order to feel like you're just not working to be working, if you're working to pay yourself, you have more gratification at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Our time here is running short, gentlemen, and I do want to touch on some things that can absolutely blow the budget up. We refer to them as budget busters. I want to touch on a few of these before we leave. There are several, but we've broken this down into the ones that we see more than others that actually damage one's budget. I'm just going to jump right into it. The first one is living outside your means. You know, we talked about the rent and the mortgage based on the annual income and how much one was paying toward housing.
Yeah.
Living outside of your means, buying or renting a house that's too expensive for you. I like to use the phrase keeping up with the Joneses. You got to have a serious conversation with yourself. Oftentimes, it's not really about what I want, and it's more about what I can have. And those two things don't always line up. The second one is paying too much for a car. I was in a conversation with a friend of mine recently who is in the market for a new vehicle. And through the course of that conversation, he decided that maybe I'll keep what I have through the spring or the early summer to see what happens with interest rates.
Right, correct.
Should I just pay cash for the vehicle?
Yeah.
Are the cost of used and new vehicles still somewhat inflated, or in my opinion, greatly inflated? So if I buy the car today, am I really paying too much for the car? Can I make some repairs on my current vehicle and drive it for a little while longer? Budget buster, credit card debt. Come on, people. I personally believe credit card debt should be zero. Now, that's a conversation way down the road.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big borrow money today to pay for it now and pay it off over time. I'm not big on that philosophy.
So you don't like doing everything before time is what you're telling me.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. That's exactly what I'm telling you.
If I don't have it, I can't get it.
I can't get it. There's a time and a place for everything, and credit card debt is a buster. Leisure time. Listen, people, I can't tell you how many times I hear somebody say, oh, I'm going on vacation because I deserve it. No. Have you earned it? And here's how you earn your leisure vacation. Have I planned for it and saved money for it on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis? We don't deserve anything. Have I earned it? Have I set the funds aside for this leisure endeavor?
So you're
if not, leisure time can be a budget buster. Say that again, man.
I can't put my vacation on my credit card?
Come on now. Now we back to credit card.
Come on, Mr.
Now we back to credit card.
I can't put my vacation on my credit card.
Now we back to credit card. No. Listen, yes, you can, because it's easier to book things, but I have the cash at home to pay that off because that's what I have set aside for my leisure trip when my leisure trip is over with.
No, that so the cash I have is for that those outfits I want on vacation and the stuff I'm gonna buy. So you're telling me to take the money I have and pay the trip off before I go on the trip? Is that
what you're saying?
I'm saying an example might be if whatever I want to do on my leisure trip, and if that includes purchasing clothes when I get there, I need to have that ironed out and set aside before day one of the trip.
Because I know a lot of people that go on vacation and they're not on vacation because they're under debt and they're not truly enjoying themselves because they know the moment that plane touches down, they got to pay all that back. And
they got to pay it back.
They don't have it saved up. So what's that one thing we're living with, folks? We're going to pick this budget buster up in our next podcast and really go deeper into budget busters. But what's the one word that we want to leave our audience with and our challenge? Let's talk about our challenge. What is our challenge on today? What is our challenge on today?
Good question.
What is our challenge on today? We want people to ponder this. We want people to ponder the challenge. Where do you have budget busters?
Yes.
That is the challenge.
Yes.
Where do you have budget busters? Identify. You heard Santana talk about the 10-20-70. Last week's challenge was to get your budget, complete your budget. Now let's see where we're out of alignment so that we can get in alignment. Listen, your mind has to have a picture of its future every single day. If it doesn't, it will replay the past. That's what I'm leaving here with. Santana?
I think your breakthrough is close to your next right decision.
Boom.
Your breakthrough is close to your next right decision. And your next right decision may be just saying no today.
And I want to leave you with accountability. Have you decided who that accountability partner is going to be? Because that individual might lead you or help assist you to get to what Santana just said, your next right decision. What is your budget buster? What are you not being honest with yourself about? And what do you need to be held personally accountable for to help get your money on the right side of what it is you're trying to do? A lot of this simply comes down to how bad do you really want this? That's really what it comes down to.
Well, listen, everyone, you've been listening to Get Your Money Right with the Finance Squad. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got more coming in the next podcast, going deeper into budget busters. Listen, I'm Mordecai. I'm part of the Finance Squad, joined here with Santana and Forrest.
All right.
We'll see you on the next show.